and standing 3 feet in front of me is Osama bin Laden.
Did you shoot bin Laden?
On the ground, yes.
You did?
Yep.
How many times?
Couple.
Where at?
The body.
In the body? How did that feel? Don't fucking tell me like, I'm just doing the job. Bullshit. You just fucking killed. You shot.
I didn't kill bin Laden. I've never said I killed bin Laden.
I'm correcting myself. You shot him as he was twitching at the fucking edge of his bed, and you didn't feel anything?
I don't know what that counts for, but...
This has been an amazing story unfolding. Shawn Ryan has recently had Matt Bissonette, I think that's how you say it, on his podcast talking about the Osama bin Laden raid, and we're seeing a lot of people that are finding this to be conflicting with the Rob O'Neill story, where essentially they are similar, but there are some key differences, and that is because there are a lot of claims that Rob O'Neill did not do it, but Rob O'Neill says he does. Matt says he was part of that and did lay some rounds into him as well, and so you're like, okay, where's the reality? But there's also some like context and sphere outside of this where you're going to scratch your head and ask questions as well. Now let's start off timeline of events. They both say 2 weeks out that they had essentially been briefed on what was going on with all these different intelligence agencies talking about it. They were recalled. They were brought back to a situation. Rob was at that brief. However, Matt was not at the brief. And so he found out later because he was at a medical appointment. And then they start conducting drills. They don't mention where, how, what, but they're planning various things. They're giving feedback. You talk about both having some kind of worry or concern with the planes and getting into the country, and how they were one of the top picks of this because of their ability to go on site, go in, go out, and that be it, versus other things like walking in 5 kilometers. What I found interesting is Rob specifically mentions the helicopter crashing. He mentions that this is something that they had planned for because they said throw any crazy instance out there, and if that is something that we can consider, we should probably run a drill on that.
I guess the chief of staff of the Air Force said, well, there is one more option. And he told him about the helicopters that no one knew about. And so then we just started training, and that was an option. So we trained there. It wasn't it was, obviously to get to know the exterior. We tried to think of contingencies, try to brainstorm everything. What if the cars leave? What if we get squirters? Who's doing what? Coming up to this. And then we would go back to the hotel or whatever we're staying at, and somebody at the CIA had made a 2-scale model of bin Laden's house. One night, one of the bosses said, all right, what's the worst thing that could happen? And the youngest guy in the room said, the helicopter could crash in the front yard. And we're like, what the fuck? Why would you bring that karma here?
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't know, shouldn't we talk about that for 30 seconds? So we did that, and then we went out west to a certain place.
Matt doesn't mention that at all during the entire training, which I was like, that seems pretty key. Like, would we have planned for this or not? But, maybe just can't organize every event. But I'm just like, okay, that would be a very key, like, we kind of planned this or anticipated it. But where this story starts to divert, because you got to realize there's 2 sides to every coin, Matt is on the one that does go down in the compound and crashes or safely kind of lands, crash, as the Black Hawk helicopters, which you both say were top secret helicopters that nobody knew about. Now, that happens, and on the other helicopter is Rob O'Neill. Rob O'Neill is there, and they know that. Now, during all of this intelligence, they have been told there are 3 floors, and they've ran through drills and drills and drills of how they're going to do this. As they enter the compound, Rob is in a different situation than the other people that are like Matt, running in, blasting doors with charges and things like that, where they go through a false door, realize they got to keep going. They go through another door, and then they start going up into the building, where they were smart to know the first floor was everybody that would probably defend it, right? Then the second floor, they both agree that they were given information that Khalid, the son of Osama bin Laden, was going to be there, fortified, and they knew that would be probably the most intense battle to get to Osama bin Laden because how frail, weak, and everything else he was. However, what you're going to see is the story is the same when it talks about how they got to lure his son down, kind of to peek into the first floor.
But there will be a stairwell going to the second floor, and you will run into Khalid bin Laden. and he's 20 years old. It's bin Laden's son, and that is his last line of defense. He will be armed on the stairwell. We get to the stairwell, and it comes up and comes back. So the stairs go this way. There's a little area, and then it comes this way. And Khalid was there, and he jumped behind a banister. And I'm at this point now, because I had the front row seat to the coolest mission in modern history. I'm just watching cool guys, right? And they're going up the stairs, and he jumps back, and I'm a certain amount of guys back. And normally in an urban setting, if we're fighting up, I will pull guys out. I only want a certain amount of guys on there just to avoid unnecessary deaths if he starts dropping shit on us, like grenades and whatnot, or takes a shot down the stairs. But I figure we're going to die anyway, so I want to see how this goes down. And I'm just standing there. I don't have a shot. And now we're back to being quiet. And it's dark. And the point man said something like, and I'm going to fuck this up, it was something like Khalid Urfa Idek, Khalid Delta Rasha. Something like that, but it was basically come here, in 2 different languages that he knew Khalid spoke, which I think is incredible, because I would have thought he would have pinned it and tried to get a shot off. And Khalid simply got confused, and he leaned over the thing and went, "What?"
No shit.
That is the coolest thing I'd ever seen in combat. How tactically savvy are you to think of doing that? Like, well, he doesn't know. He doesn't know. We might be Pakistanis here to move him. He doesn't know. I'll just call him out. And he did. So he was armed, perfectly within his rules of engagement.
What I remember, right? Seal in front of me. It just shot Khalid up the stairs, right? Khalid was bin Laden's son. We'd been told we think Khalid lives on the 2nd floor. We're literally standing on the 2nd floor. There's a set of ladder, stairs that go up to a landing and up. A little head pops down looking at us on the ceiling.
How did he hear you guys?
He had to have, right? I mean, anybody inside the house had plenty of time to wake up. They heard helicopters hovering, helicopters crash. They'd heard muffled gunfire, some explosions, right? Outside buildings, 1st floor of the main building, and then now we're in the house. So they had more than enough time to assume there's somebody here that's...
Is it true that somebody yelled to Khalid in Arabic, he came out and then was popped?
Didn't yell, whispered. It's the sexiest move I ever saw in the SEAL teams. Whispered Khalid's name. You're on the 2nd floor. You see a head peek down the wall, look down at us, try and see who's down there. Couldn't tell. Right? It's pitch black. We're quiet. In front of me on the stairs, and he literally whispers Khalid's name. Khalid. Khalid had heard gunfire, all this stuff. Then he hears somebody whispering his name. Not yelling it, nothing aggressive. Peeks around the corner and gets popped in the head.
Holy shit.
Falls down, rolls down a couple sets of stairs, AK-47. Right? He was literally right around the corner of the stairwell with an AK-47. Had we made our way up the stairs, all right, he would have popped the point man point blank as we rounded the corner. Maybe the rest of us. More importantly, he would have slowed our assault down.
During this point, Rob is like, oh, we go up. I go from 8th guy to number 2 man, and that's it. And so Rob's story of this is a little bit different.
And I moved from this point from like the 8th guy to the 2nd guy, because everyone else went to the right and to the left, because you want to clear, obviously, the area before you move on. But now we're down to 2, and we're pointing up the last set of stairs. And above it, there was a curtain. It looked kind of like a shower curtain, but it was like a green olive drab type thing. And we can see there's sort of backlit. There's people moving. And we assumed those are the suicide bombers. But bin Laden's in there. And the guy in front of me took a shot before we got there. And they're moving around. And I'm the 2-man. And my job as the 2-man is to hold him and wait. His job is to simply look forward. Don't drop security, and I got you. And through effective communication, when it's your time to go, I will squeeze you. It's on. I'm just telling you through effective communication we have enough guys. But we don't have enough guys. We're out of guys. It's 2 of us. And I want 4 more. I'll take 2. But he starts saying, we got to go. Come on, we got to go. He doesn't know it's me. He knows it's one of his guys. And what he's saying is those are basically suggesting those are the suicide bombers, but if we go right now, we can beat them. And I remember taking a deep breath, and It wasn't. It was by no means bravery on my part. It was more of a okay. We're gonna blow up now, and I'm tired of thinking about it. Let's fucking get it over with. So I give him the squeeze, and he goes up, and he moves the curtain, and there are 3 people standing there. He didn't have even enough time. He just jumped on them. How he doesn't have a Medal of Honor is beyond me. He jumped on the grenade so the guy behind him could get the shot.
Damn.
So and simply because he went this way, I turned this way. And standing 3 feet in front of me is Osama bin Laden, and he's got his hands on Amal, his wife's shoulders. And I don't know what he's doing. He's not surrendering. He's maneuvering somehow. His hands are on her, and I remember thinking, he's taller than I thought. He's skinnier than I thought.
So you knew it was him as
Right
soon as
away.
you turned
Right
the
away.
corner?
Yep. His beard is gray. He's not surrendering. He's got to have a suicide belt. So I shot him twice when he was standing up. I shot him again on the floor, and then I moved Amal out of the way. So I can hear bin Laden taking his last breath. When I shot him, he fell to the foot of the bed.
Where'd you shoot him?
I shot him in the face 3 times.
So what's crazy is in Rob's story of events, the first front man pushes the people against the wall, and that's it. He takes out Osama bin Laden, 3 shots to the face. Everyone agrees that this was just capture or kill. They were trying to avoid headshots, but if they're dangerous, they're dangerous. Now, this is where this story is very divisive.
All right, so you're moving up to the 3rd deck.
3rd floor, point man in front of me again.
Same guy?
Same guy whispered Khalid. Head pops out the door at the top. Point man takes a couple shots, and the head disappears into the room.
That's because Matt is saying, we went up after that shot, and then that's when the girls or the women that were the spouse and kids were pushed against the wall. They were interrogated, things like that. And essentially from that point on, he laid rounds into his body. Now, on the Shawn Ryan show, this gets a little controversial because Shawn tries to push a little bit on this.
Cleared to the door of the room, looked in, and he's basically twitching at the foot of his bed. There's 2 women in the room.
Bin Laden's just twitching at the foot of his bed.
Headshot from the guy coming up the stairs. There's 2 women standing there in the room, right?
So is he still alive, or is this
I
just
don't think
nerves?
so. It's pretty twitchy. I'd say he's done. Headshot. Now he's laying at the foot of his bed. 2 women in the room, right? Same point man grabs the 2 chicks and pushes them back against the far wall. Right, had they had a vest on or something, he would have taken the brunt. Turns out they didn't. Push them back against the far wall, and that's basically target secure, right? We finished clearing the 3rd floor.
Did you shoot bin Laden?
On the ground, yes.
You did?
Yep.
How many times?
Couple.
Where at?
The body.
In the body? How did that feel? Don't fucking tell me just doing the job. Bullshit. You just fucking killed. You shot.
I didn't kill bin Laden. I've never said I killed bin Laden.
I'm correcting myself. You shot him as he was twitching at the fucking edge of his bed, and you didn't feel anything?
I don't know what that counts for, but...
Come on. You didn't feel anything. No sense of accomplishment, retribution. This guy fucking brought down the Twin Towers.
We had a long way to get home still.
Now, throughout this entire thing, I have to tell you that Matt was allegedly the supply guy that is ensuring they're able to collect DNA, take pictures, things like that. And he claims that they had taken photos of what happened. They'd split DNA as well between both helicopters in case one was captured, shot down, whatever else. So during this, even Rob says he held the head at some point. So at this point, you're like, all right, you're both agreeing on that. But I'm like, okay. Matt then says, we used the Camelback little tube to then put the water on his face. And then we wiped away that in order to make sure it was him. And we made sure we were checking the photos. They both agree they had photos. And Matt even goes on to say that he had used hair dye. He noticed it on Osama bin Laden's nightstand or some kind of toiletry area.
Right. And all the photos we carried, his beard was gray and his little had gray hair. I searched his bathroom. On the shelf, just above his sink, just for men hair dye.
Get the fuck out of here. Are you serious?
He's been dyeing his beard. That's why his beard's pitch black in all the photos.
Oh, shit.
So I started taking the photos. A buddy of mine was there. We literally, he had a Camelback. He took the hose of his Camelback, dripped water on his face. We took the sheets off his bed, washed all the blood off his face. I was the supply guy, so I bought everybody in the squadron digital cameras, right? Because we knew, right, if we had the body going out in our helicopter and then we got shot down on the way out, how do you have proof on your helicopter, right? So did multiple digital cameras, taking photos, DNA samples, different helos, and then
But in Rob's situation, it was like, oh, he was shot in the face 3 times. So like, what?
We we do have pictures of Bin Laden. It's actually my gloves in there, putting his head together for the picture, dumping water on him, and like it was. I think the pictures haven't been released because it's one of those things where you really don't need to know how justice looks when it's served. It just is.
So those pics on the internet?
No, they're fake.
Those are bullshit.
It's split from he's split from here to here.
Okay.
I mean, he got hit 3 times with I'm shooting 77 grain hollow point at 3 feet.
I'm like, what were you going to be able to see? I mean, if there's photos, we don't have photos of this. Nobody in the public does. And the ones that you did see were probably doctored up, photoshopped, whatever else. So now what's crazy is kind of the aftermath of all this. Let's get into the context around this situation, because it's been known that Matt did not take any credit for any of the stuff that was going on. He had written under a pseudonym name and made No Easy Day. You can check that book out if you'd like. I've read it actually as well. It was quite entertaining. But Rob O'Neill has come out and kind of stroked his ego by saying, yes, I was the person who did it. Has claims from various other people I talked about in a lawsuit recently, such as Admiral McRaven. What the twist of this story is Matt has not said anything, but has been under a lawsuit where he is claiming some of the people from the President Obama administration during that time had essentially been mad that he had released this book. They were not anticipating it. That he was pretty much primed and set up to be this next movie star. Now, this story sounds quite similar. Marcus Luttrell, the one from Lone Survivor, the one that went to Hollywood producers and talked about his story, was set up for that. And it sounds like Matt did not go with that situation. He was like, okay, and had a lot of issues with how things were being ran and wanted to tell his own story. And essentially he was like, I had a publisher, I had a lawyer, nothing was, classified information. I'm off the hook, but he had to pay every cent back to the U.S. government, and including whatever he paid in lawyer fees, even though that money was used from the book, which was $7 million. That money from that, even that went to lawyer fees, had to eventually get cycled back. And he actually sued his old lawyer for bad advice, bad counsel, and essentially got $500,000, but still had to owe over $1 million, where he is still paying that to this day. During the podcast, he is alleging that pretty much the reason this happened is because President Obama wanted to be reelected. They did not want a nobody that had no information to be put out for whatever good reason to essentially be writing a book. They wanted to shut it down. And during this, he actually talks badly about former Admiral McRaven in regards to him being able to do podcasts, talk about this on the news. However, for Matt, that was a different story. And he is essentially saying that he is using the Shawn Ryan show to ruffle everything, to say, I want my book published. Everything from his lawsuit has been settled per se, even though that they've shown that there was nothing that was classified. They still are making him pay everything back because of this. And so it's a very slippery slope. But let me know what you guys think about this situation down in the comments below.